What's up guys, it's Car Boss here back with another video where we talk cards, money investing. And my last video, I talked a bit about my financial numbers for year 2024, and I had a couple of interesting comments, and it was about the topic cleansing. I mentioned this term a couple of times in the last video, and people are asking, what is it? Why do I do it? So I thought before I do my year in recap video, I'm just going to do a separate video on this cleansing topic, just to give you guys an insight on why it's more important than you guys actually think. Stick around. Okay, welcome back guys. So today's video, we're going to talk a bit about cleansing. Okay, so it's not that kind of cleansing, okay? What I'm talking about is basically cleansing your collection, right? So I'm going to give you a bit of context, right? So before some of the terminologies that we're accustomed to today, investors, flipping, right? Previously, there was just collectors, hobbyists, simple hobbyists that enjoy collecting cards, be it sports, Marvel, you name it, okay? But ever since when pandemic came and the price started to rise up into astronomical numbers, the time when gold prices, gold meaning the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, the LeBron James, and all these cards went into extreme highs, okay? A lot of people went in during that period, even myself, I was still actively buying and selling during then. And come to today, a lot of these prices has come down quite a fair bit, some more than others, okay, depending on the card itself, but nevertheless they are way down compared to where it was previously. Now I'm one of those guys as well that's still holding on to some of these key pieces back, acquired back then, entering into this year 2024. Okay, so when I actually decided to start my business in year 2024, I was still holding on to a couple of these cards, okay? To be exact, roughly about between $140,000 to $150,000 worth of these cards that was acquired before 2024, okay, 2023, and before that, as old as 2020. All right, so I've been holding to some of these cards. There were not many. I believe there was about close to 30 to 40 cards, okay? So they had the value of roughly about 140, 150K back then. This is the cost that I actually paid, not the actual value that it was in the start of the year. And that's pretty important, which we're going to talk about next. Okay, the second concept I'm going to talk about is maybe a bit technical for you guys, okay, but just try to bear with me. So when you start a business, okay, be it any business, okay, you definitely need capital, and most of the time when you start a new business, the capital is normally cash. Okay, now for my case in this business, doing sports card full time, okay, I had two modes of capital. One is cash, obviously, and of course cards that was going to bring injected into the business. Okay, now remember the last segment I talked a bit about having roughly about 140K to 150K of cards that are still holding on hand that was acquired from 2023 and prior to that. But bear in mind, those cards were not valued at 140 to 150K, okay? So when you inject capital into a business, okay, especially you're talking about cards, okay, there are two options for you to bring in the cards, especially these are cards from your original collection, okay? You could bring it at what the fair market value is, okay, what the true value of that cards at that point in time. So let's call it as at 1st of January of this year. Or you could bring in the historical cost, which you and I know it's actually inflated, way underwater. That's some of you, the terminologies that you guys use. So if you're talking about 140, 150K, maybe just say at the point in time, it could be valued at just 100K, 110K. So you can make either determination on which way you want to bring it, and both has some pros and cons, okay, on it. So I'm going to address it in this segment first. If you bring your inventory in at true market value, so in this case, I had roughly about 140K worth of inventory that I acquired in prior years, and it's worth, let's say, 100K, and I brought it in, the capital contribution to the business is 100, along with whatever I cash. So kind of like that's actually correct. And whatever I sell going forward, if let's say I sell that 100K for let's say 105 or 110, that's 10K profit to the business, and that's technically how you should be doing it. But that's obviously not a rule. Okay, you could acquire the cards via a transfer from my personal collection, because these are from my own personal collection into a business that I own. So I could actually technically transfer the historical costs into my business, which is actually what I've done. Okay, but what has happened was, as I explained in my last video, I sold all this inventory for roughly about $90,000, $88,000 to $90,000, throughout the course of the year, and resulted in roughly about like $58,000 to $60K in losses during the year, okay, which values total 140 to 150, okay, and that loss actually sums into my total P&L for the year, okay. So when you look at it, and overall, as I mentioned in the last video, I may actually lost roughly about 30 odd K during the year, and that's a summation of the loss that I carried forward from my previous inventory and the actual business profit that I made for inventory that I bought and sold this year, resulting in a net loss position. Okay, from a taxation point of view, which is the point that I want to mention, okay, because I make a loss this year, so obviously there's no taxation to my business for this year. I'm just speaking in general terms here. Taxation is a bit more complicated than that, but in general terms, because you make a loss, so technically you won't be taxed for this year. But had I took the approach of having, to bring the cards at fair market value on the 1st of January, okay, the cards would have been valued slightly differently. I wouldn't know, I didn't do the calculation, but the business would have performed at a profitable margin. I would have to pay tax on this profit that I made this year. But what happened to the inventory? That all the losses we've accumulated from buying it earlier during the pandemic days, and book loss, you would call it, about like 20-30 grand, that's gone, okay, because you inject in the business, you absorb the losses personally, and therefore it's you don't get to enjoy the benefit of the tax loss. Okay, so that's pretty important. So, and that leads me to the cleansing part. So basically, you guys understand, right? The reason why I brought inventory in at those prices, and the reason why I wanted to kind of like just clear it out on year one. So I just want to, you guys are a bit curious, right? What are the cards that I actually acquired back then and sold at this year? So I'll give you guys some example, right? Of course, there was the Michael Jordan BGS 9 Fleer 57 rookie card that I talked about in a couple of videos back, okay, which I actually acquired through a trade, through multiple transactions, I think way back in year 2022. Okay, the trade value or the acquisition cost was roughly about 12 to 13K roughly, okay, which I subsequently sold on Finex Collect recently, just a couple of months back, or was it last month in November, for about 8,700 before fees. So there you can imagine, you can do the math in your head, that's a loss. Okay, now the question is, why did I sell it? I get this question a lot. Why do I sell such an iconic card as Michael Jordan, right? Surely the price would go up, maybe eventually, perhaps, okay, but from a technical perspective, I was kind of like doing the cleansing process, take the loss this year to offset some of the taxable profits from my business so that I will pay less tax for this year. And if I were to want to acquire, or if I see the trend on Michael Jordan rookie cards actually going back up, it's okay for me to reacquire this piece, right? It won't be too late, given that my cost base is like 13K and I sold it for about 8 or slightly less once you minus fees. If I can see the trend going up, I'm okay picking it back up for, let's say, 9 or 10 if I see the trend going back up. But for me to wait for it to become 13 again to recover my original cost base, it's going to be a while. Okay, so as an active business, it's all about managing cash flows, flipping cards, right? So this is not something that I really wanted to hold on to, even though it's an iconic card. There's no loss holding on to such a big card, but it's a severe drain on the cash flow. Okay, once it sits in my inventory, you don't want your inventory to be dead stock. I could classify this as my PC, all right, and probably never ever sell it, but I want something better, right? PSA 10 maybe, BGS 9.5 maybe, BGS 9, it's nice, but not really something I would call it as my PC level. What are examples? Okay, Formula One. Okay, if you guys are followers on my channel early on, right, I was a big advocate for Formula One because I did see something which I thought I saw something that, you know, Formula One was going to be next thing. Apparently, it didn't pan out. You know, I got in quick, got in hard, lost some money, exited right before I drained my wallet even further. But one card that I kept from all of that was this Lewis Hamilton from Topps Chrome 2020 Gold Wave Refractor number 250 PSA 8. At that point in time, there was I paid $8,000 from Goldin, as you can see here, okay, and which was the most expensive card that I paid, a single card that I paid back then, right? And it was not a basketball card or a Marvel card, which was very active back then. Surprisingly, it was a Formula One card. It was that I believe in Formula One that much, okay, but it didn't pan out. You know, I held it for a while. I sold a lot of my Formula One cards early on, took a bunch of losses back then, and this card entered into my business for this year. You know, original cost base of $8,000. There's nowhere near that price today. Okay, and finally I pulled the trigger, sold it. You can see here on Fanatics Collect, closed for roughly about $2,500. So that's a huge loss as well, and you know, part of the whole process again. Okay. What about the small cards? You know, I've been showing you some big cards. How about some small? Let's look at this Michael Jordan exclamation point. This is an insert from the Michael Jordan hierarchy. You guys might be familiar if you follow that series from Cajun. There's a BGS 9. Nothing to shout about. The reason why it's BGS 9 is because I've been buying Michael Jordan BGS 9 inserts because I felt that the price point was kind of okay. You know. But, you know, bought it roughly in, I can't remember the exact date, you can see the date here, but, you know, just sold it months later, right? Because I realized that this didn't really feel part of my bigger plan. So I decided to sell it. Took a tiny loss, okay? But, you know, the time span, you know, some of you may be thinking that's quite a dumb move, okay? To, you know, just sell it at marginal loss. It's not a heavy card, not like the, you know, Fleer 57, right? So I could have held it for longer. But again, because it didn't feel like part of the bigger plan that I was trying to get to, and it was acquired previously in 2023, so I decided that, you know, just cut it off. I could buy this card anytime I want, okay, if I see the price trends going up again. So clearing off, you know, keeping consistent with the strategy that I was doing, you know, just moving on these pieces which just didn't feel part of the plan, okay. It's all not just bad stuff, right? How about good stuff? Okay, I'm showing you an example here. This is a Kobe Bryant 2018 Flawless Momentous Auto. Okay, this is number 5. It's a PSA 10. You can see right here, I sold it for $7,600. Okay, maybe you're thinking, hey, it's probably worth more today. You're exactly right. But at that point in time, you know, the offer was right. And what was the price that I paid for this particular Kobe? And I acquired this raw, okay, way back in year during the pandemic time, 2020. I bought it February 2020 for $1,300. I sent it for grading. I made a video on it as well. Okay, I got a PSA 10. Okay, I was looking for a way. I thought that this car was going to be worth like 20 grand. Okay, of course, you're talking about during the GOAT period, 20 grand. No one actually came and offered me, 20 grand. No one actually offered me 10 grand actually at that point in time. Okay, so I held on to it. It formed part of my inventory, and it flew into this year, and decided, yep, I think I want to move it so I could have the cash to do other parts of my business, and that's exactly what I did. So you can see the plus, you can see the minus. So this is all part of the process, because again, while the Kobe is nice, it didn't really feel like part of my long-term strategy and long-term goal that I want for my business. And it's all about trying to get your cash flows going, all about keeping momentum going, so these old stuff, some are positive, some are negative. They can be dead stock. You can't be selling negatives and then holding on and hoping that the positives, you can keep it for a rainy day. You just gotta stick to your guns, clean it up. Okay, exactly what I did, and that's why I call it the cleansing process. Okay, to just basically remove all these old inventory that I have coming to my business that I acquired from previous year, and what's left will be stuff that current year. And to keep, when it's current year, the values are fresh. Okay, you don't have something that, I bought it in 2020 2018, for example, okay, for $500. So today is like worth 10K, right? So my business is worth, 9K plus more. It just doesn't reflect what a business should be. As an investment, that's fine, okay, but not exactly what a business should be like. So I hope that gave you an insight about this cleansing process. So aside from just trying to clean up the books in a sense, right? So there is some value as well from a taxation point of view. So therefore, it was something that I already set out to do in the early part of this year. That's why I mentioned in my last video that a lot of these moves that was done, was actually by design, because I really felt that I knew what I was going to do for this year, where I wanted to be, and I wanted to know where my position in the market will be like come end of this year, and I felt that I've achieved that. And because that is the reason, so I took a short hiatus from YouTube just to kind of like get my act together. There was a bunch of things that was still floating around. I was pivoting here and there, just trying to do tweaks to the business, but I realized that come the final quarter of this year, where I also latched on to Finex Collect as a part of the dealer program, and things are coming together, and a bit more time to share with you guys on my experiences and lots of things that's going to happen going forward. All right, that's it for this one. Next video I'm going to talk a bit about my I would say the overall plan that I had in year 2024, and where I was on everything, and where I am today and heading into 2025. It's going to be interesting piece to watch, and hopefully it'll be interesting for me to put it together for you guys. Okay, do like, subscribe, follow my channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next one. Kabos out.